Uh, our first speaker is Kelly Moore. So, Kelly has a background in developer relations, data science, and software engineering. Kelly has made impactful contributions to high growth enterprises and startup companies in the SaaS and EdTech markets. She has a real interest in driving startups forward, and that energy is obvious from her combination of current roles. Kelly is the founder and executive director of Sweet Trades, a nonprofit focused on helping individuals land living wage jobs. And she is a senior software engineer at a Fortune 100 company. And she is a data scientist at a US national lab. I'm not sure we can keep up. That's pretty awesome. She's a big believer in continuous education and mentors others of the tech community during her spare time. And if that's not enough, she's applying her tutoring skills to her gorgeous puppy, Amelia, who has mastered finding hidden treats and lying down patiently to receive them. Kelly's talk is Empathy and Growth Metrics in DevRel. Kelly, it's great to have you here. Please take it away.
Thank you, Richard. And nice touch on shouting out my pup. I don't even want to mention her name because she'll run over here and interrupt the talk. But
Let's hope
yeah,
so.
let's see
Let's hope so.
here.
It's always good. You'll have to put her on then, of course.
Cool. Okay, so let me go ahead and start. Can you give me a confirmation on whether or not you all can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Perfect. So again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Sinead and Richard, for having me. So again, my name is Kelly. I have a background in developer relations, data science, and software engineering. I've worked heavily with startup companies and a Fortune 100 enterprise in starting and launching and managing the DevRel department and team. And I'm really excited to speak with you all today about empathy and growth metrics, specifically because we're seeing so many layoffs right now with especially DevRel. And I think that having an approach where we speak about growth metrics and the value that it brings to our companies can perhaps prevent that in the future. So I like to start off by defining what exactly is DevRel. Twilio actually had a really good definition on it a couple of years ago, but since they have changed their DevRel to a DevNet team, it's changed a bit. So this definition is from Wikimedia. So it's essentially an umbrella term covering the strategy and tactics for building and nurturing a community of mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and developers as its primary users. And I really wanted to highlight the relationship between organizations and developers. So what this means is that your users will not only be external, sometimes they're going to also be internal. And even if the users are not internal, you still want to be able to maintain a really positive relationships with your software engineers inside your company and your product engineers inside of your company. And how do we define growth? So it's essentially the increase of a company's size, revenue, market share, and profitability over time. And when we focus on growth metrics in DevRel, we're really going to help out with the revenue and profitability part for the company. So in startups, we have several different stages. Some people will argue that the growth metrics shouldn't start until the growth stage. However, with this talk, I'm going to argue that it can start as early as a pre-seed stage of your startup. And it's going to start with that because you're going to be speaking to users and understanding what they like and what they don't like about your product and how you can improve on it. So startup metrics for growth in DevRel. So this might be different depending on the type of company and the type of developer tool that you are implementing. However, the three that I've outlined here, I think, can be generalized to fit all DevRel teams for all startups, early stage or later. So time to first launch is really important because that's going to decrease the time that it's going to take for our external developers to utilize our API or our developer tool or product into their company. And as soon as they start using it, the sooner we, get to build them and earn revenue. New users, of course, how do we obtain them, and how do we measure that, and how are we going to get them to become monthly active users? And of course, conversion rates. How do we convert our free users to paid users? Also, how do we track that? So this is a growth wheel. I'm going to credit Reforge here because I saw this wheel with a growth course that I took from them last year, and it still makes sense this year, and I think will make sense for the foreseeable future. So first of all, we're not going to be able to do this without speaking to users. So growth and talking to users is going to equal more growth. So we're going to talk to our developers, internal and external, find out what the problem is, do some experiments, run those experiments, see and if there's anything new that we can learn about it. And if there is and it does well, we grow. And if it isn't, then we change the experiment, we learn, and we also grow. And it's a loop. We're going to keep doing this over and over again. And also, this is kind of where developer experience would come into play. So going back to time to first launch, a really good way to decrease the time that it takes for our clients to launch using our product is to find out if our docs are good enough. How good are our docs? So this is a screenshot that I took from the Vercel docs, which are excellent. And when we scroll down below it, we have these little happy and sad faces. And some documentation will end it there. However, Vercel, as soon as we click happy or sad, we are prompted with an input box where we can give them feedback. Hey, this example code was great, or no, it wasn't because these methods were deprecated and I'm still stuck on this problem. And as soon as we get those tickets, we can take the initiative and go fix that for our product team if we have, the time, or if it's really in our docs, we can just fix the docs and update it ourselves. Again, with time to first launch, another element that's gonna help us here decrease that time is giving really good support engineering. So this could come from our community forums in discourse. If we're seeing a question pop up over and over again, we need to make sure that we're giving it a really good explanation. That way we don't get that same question coming in from a different user, and we have to explain it a different way. One-on-one meetings, Zoom does a really good job at this, and this is not sponsored. So after we have a support engineering meeting on Zoom, we can actually set up our settings to have a survey after we close out of the meeting, asking for feedback. Hey, was the support engineering call helpful to you? Do you think that maybe this helped you with your blocker? Things of that nature, asking questions in order to get feedback that'll help us help them, our clients, or that'll just, confirm that we are still doing a good job. And then again, this is how we're going to track it, getting user feedback, doing new experiments, learning from those experiments. And then we keep going and growing and gathering more data and learning more things and continually doing experiments. So how are we going to measure that at the end? So we can take that metric and measure, how long was it taking our external developers to launch before and after our efforts? What is the change there? Did we improve? Hopefully we did if we're doing a good job. And then here growth is going to come from the number of monthly active users or build usage of the API or a live product. From this developer experience, growth can also be measured from word to mouth by referrals from clients. All right, so moving on to new users. Here I have to credit Cassidy Williams, because I heard her say this in one of her talks about something called using all the parts of the buffalo. That is a strategy she used to use when she was running the DevRel team at Nullify. So it's a really great way to obtain new users, in my opinion, because essentially, let's say our product engineers launched a new feature, or we created a new API. We would go take that new feature or new API. We would build a demo app for it, open source it, then maybe write a concept article about it, then a technical article, which it would be a technical tutorial. Then maybe we do a live stream and syndicate it on YouTube. Then maybe we go on a podcast and talk about that same demo app, just using it over and over again. And we can track that by using tracking links in the description of our YouTube or in the README of our GitHub repository, just to confirm that what we're building for content is obtaining new users and is continually helping us get monthly active users as the end result. We could also do this with partner collaboration. So what would our API look like using, I don't know, Vercel or Nullify or something else as a tutorial. And then how many of those users are actually coming back to us every month. And that is important because this is a conversation that our founders are going to have with our investors. So conversion rates. This is when free users are converted to paid users. And this is where we're going to go in revenue. And of course, we can track that using the same tracking link data. So, hey, we got a new user from doing this tutorial on YouTube, and now that new user is now a paid user. So now we're going to briefly talk about enterprise metrics and how this line of thinking sometimes changes when our startup gets either acquired or we join an enterprise and want to develop a DevRel program from scratch. And one thing I need to highlight here is that enterprise is a very different environment with different experiences. So they are more or less going to have a legacy, an approach to legacy business practices and education. So very seldom are you going to be working with someone who just came out of the hottest MBA program or MBA-like program like Reforge. And also the metrics like monthly active users may no longer be the primary goal for the company. And I think Gary Tance said it best in one of his YouTube videos. So in enterprise, you have to be really good at negotiation. You have to be good at getting favors from other people. You have to be good at politics. Those are really valuable life skills to have, but they are a completely separate skill set from being great technically or building a great product. So with that in mind, your metrics will more or less have to change depending on the enterprise that you're working with. And I think a good blanket goal or high level goal to approach this would be thinking long term. So obtaining student users through guerrilla growth, known as in essay marketing, and also reducing churn with empathy, I think are two approaches to take in developing enterprise DevRel metrics. And I'll get into, let me speak about what I mean by guerrilla growth. So, but before I broke into tech, I was actually a banker. And in order for that bank to grow long term, what we did was we bought naming rights for the arena on campus. We established a branch for the arena on campus. and we got students to open up a free checking account. And after that happened, where do you think that same student is going to go to get their first credit card or their first car loan or their first mortgage when they graduate and get married? So just thinking long term in a guerrilla growth approach, I think is a good approach to focus on when we're entering enterprise stages. And I'm going to touch on churn and empathy a little bit towards the end, but the way we can measure guerrilla growth is capturing emails during the hackathons we're doing on these campuses. Once we land in the startup stage, the attitude towards adopting a certain product, even in the curriculum, takes a turn. Professors are usually more welcoming toward it. So we can, take advantage of that and capture those emails that students are putting in when they apply for usage to our product, and then capture that email in the classroom. So this is an approach I actually did at a later stage startup where I embedded our payments API into a bootcamp curriculum. And I did that with the thought of, sure, they are junior developers now, but after 3 or 4 months, they're going to go either start their own startup or work at a startup where they may or may not need a payments API. And that developer is going to think, I'm just going to use the one that I already know versus learning something else like Stripe or PayPal because I already, have a knowledge of this API and know how to use it. And then with that, we can measure how many of those return to the product post-graduation. So empathy and churn. Let's define churn really quick. So the annual percentage at which customers stop subscribing to a service or employees leave a job. The last thing that you want to happen in an enterprise company is start a developer relations team and have a bunch or the lead software engineer of the product leave the company because he or she does not approve of the DevRel team and its approaches. You really need to treat your internal developers with the same respect as you do your external developers, because that relationship is so important. So again, you cannot reduce churn rate without talking to developers, and that is both internal and external developers. And it goes back to our wheel here. Talk to users, experiment and capture those results, learn more from those results, and then do it again. And I'm ready for Q&A whenever you guys are.
Hey, Kelly, thank you so much. That was super interesting. As host, I'm going to take the first question. So I recently came across this term, DevRel Ops. And it feels like what you've described here is very much fits into that category, right? The operation of developer relations. A lot of people have this notion or idea that developer relations is just going and speaking at conferences, writing blog posts or whatever. But if that isn't backed up by actual execution on the ground, and the level of detail that you've gone into here, I mean, you and your team are executing all of this. It's really amazing. I suppose I have a practical question jumping out of all of that, because I'm thinking several steps ahead to our own execution. The tracking links. In a previous life, I played around a little bit with HubSpot, but you sort of need a degree to use HubSpot nearly. Do you have recommendations for an easy, I don't know, entry level, or what criteria should you use to pick a tracking link system?
Mm-hmm. So I just like to rely on usually the marketing department or a marketing team, if your company is big enough to have one yet, would be utilizing one already. And I mean, HubSpot, if that's one that that works. I think that's the most popular one for
Yeah.
everyone. Then I guess that would be the default. But I'm sure they have tutorials on how to create that on YouTube.
You know what happened? Of course, I'm a dev, so I'm like, oh, I don't need to read the manual. I'm just gonna click around. No,
Hmm.
turns out you kind of do. Sinead and Maria, if you have questions, I think I'll let you guys go next.
Hi, thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Richard. Kelly, great. I had popped in a couple of questions into the chat, and one was actually on the response rate. Like, I love the idea of the survey, and Johannes even chipped in as well about the surveying. The documentation feedback, getting feedback on documentation. Just any idea of what a typical response rate to those surveys kind of would be, or how, just the response rate. The other thing was, I loved the long term approach. Richard keeps saying DevRel, it is relationships, it's relationships. We had Joe Drumgruel on ages ago, and it's relationships, it's long term. And you're advocating for it, absolutely. In your experience, how easy is it, or how committed can senior management be, and leadership be, and patient can they be to the long term aspect of DevRel?
Yeah, I think with enterprise companies, it is very surprising at their level of patience with thinking long term. Um, and I think that might have something to do with the leadership suite not being as much under pressure as startup founders are, where we have to tell our VCs, hey, we got this many new active users, this monthly active users this quarter. Out of those, this is how many are paying us. So the expectation, I think, for startups to in terms of adoption is just it's so much higher than it is for enterprise, because an enterprise, the name of the product or whatever it is that you're selling, it's just more it should be more trusted and commonplace. So I think that the C-suite is more understanding and patient for that. In terms of the response rate for the surveys, that's going to be dependent on how many clienteles that you're going to have. If you're asking good questions on the survey, definitely don't create a 15 a survey that's going to take 15 minutes to fill out, right? You definitely want to respect everyone's time.
Very good. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
I just,
You're welcome.
Sorry, Maria, go ahead.
hi. One thing I really appreciated you was talking about prioritizing both, internal developers and external developers. So I'm just curious about when did you find that out? And do you have any practical tips for developer advocates to really nurture and foster that relationship, especially because, like you said, developer relations is such an umbrella term where sometimes they can be in marketing, sometimes they can be in product, sometimes be engineering. But do you have any tips or guide for developer advocates to really, foster that relationship no matter what part of the company they're in?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think no matter if it is a startup or an enterprise company, whoever the lead product engineer is, or the lead developer of the product that you're selling is, I think it's important to welcome them into DevRel with open arms and try to get them involved, because their perspective is going to be much different than yours, because perhaps more than likely you were not the creator of whatever it is that we're selling. So getting them into live streams like this, or getting them to sit down with you to even discuss, hey, you built this product. What does it mean to you? What was your thinking about this? What is this problem? What does this product solve? What problem does it solve? For developers who may not have experience with the library or the language, where do you think they should start? And I think also with our audience, just having the creator of the product that they're using speak about it. It also gives them a different relationship with the product. It's less of, oh, hey, you're selling me this thing and I don't know who built it. But oh, and now I'm using this thing that this person created, and this person is awesome.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good point. Most of my experience has been in startups where the founder might have built the product, so you don't have that friction, that tension. It's an interesting challenge to face, where the DevRel team has to make sure that the core development team is also happy. They're a constituency that you need to take care of. It's really interesting insight. I think Johannes had another practical question was, how do you, I mean, I know you showed an example from Vercel, and I mean, wow, they're so great, but in general, any other tips for getting encouraging feedback? Because most of it disappears, right? Somebody just, the docs, they don't understand the docs, and they just go away, and you've lost them forever. So any techniques that you could use?
Mm-hmm. So after you implement that rating system below your documentation, what you're going to notice is that you're definitely going to receive more negative comments than positive, because the person that is mostly going to be interested in giving you feedback is the person that's completely frustrated with not being able to, get whatever it is that you're selling, your API, your whatever it is, your developer tool. They're going to be so frustrated that they're going to want to give you a piece of their mind. The less of that feedback that you get, I think the better. But whatever you get, make sure you read it and make sure that you try to fix it as soon as possible. And I'm sorry, I think I lost the second part of the question.
I guess we saw one example with Vercel, but are there any other techniques or UI elements or ways that you can just get someone over that boundary of, okay, I'm just going to spend a minute providing feedback?
Yeah, I think there are two others. So there is a UX data type of tool that I like to use. It's called Hotjar, but you can also use Lucky Orange, which I think is a competitor of theirs. And they essentially, if one of your products, so sometimes we're not only selling an API, sometimes we're actually selling an interactive product on a dashboard in a UI. Using Hotjar or Lucky Orange to just view that user experience. It took like 8 clicks for them to get to where they wanted to go. How many people is this happening to? Oh, this is happening to like half of our users. Okay, so maybe we should put that button in the landing page.
Yeah.
As soon as they log in. So that's a passive way, a semi-passive way of gathering data, and those tools usually have heat maps for you as well. Another way to track this is your community forum on Discourse, for example. If you're getting the same question over and over again, something, either you need to explain it better or you need to help the product or engineering team out and create your own pull request. Luckily, if it's a startup, you do, it's easy to do. They're going to give you access and fix whatever it is that is blocking that user from launching.
Awesome. Okay. Lots of practical stuff to digest there. Thank you so much. That was really useful. Really useful talk. Maria.
Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. We're delighted to have you.